All right, good afternoon, White Sands. Thanks for showing up for our special town hall that we're conducting today. So the purpose of the special town hall is to address any concerns our residents may have here in White Sands with their homes, primarily built before 1978, because anything built before 1978 could have, and we assume have, paint in the lead. So we're really here for lead-based paint issues in homes here in the White Sands. And why 1978 is a key number is because that's 1978 is when the government regulated, mandated that all paint could not have any kind of lead contaminants in the paint. I'm joined here, as Chris Ward, the Garrison Commander. I'm here with Susan, Colonel Dr. Lafon. She's here representing our medical community. And then we also have Brian Beauregard. Representing our housing community, our private residential community, BBC. And so we're here, we'll go through some facts and tell you, a little bit about our community and why it is that we're safe, and we're confident that we are. So the situation really started about a month ago, 3-4 weeks ago. There were some stories ran in the national media of some issues on other installations, not White Sands, that there were some concerns with the children and having higher contents of lead in their blood. That caused the Army to look at Army housing, specifically housing before 1978 again, and determine if there was any risk. All homes are being looked at. In our installation, we have gone through our records, and there's not a cause for concern, and the reason is because of what we call encapsulation. And when we encapsulate paint, that is the approved technique from the EPA and again in the medical community, where if we had a home that was painted with lead-based paint, if you paint over that lead-based paint with non-lead-based paint, it essentially forms a barrier and encapsulates that lead that was on the original coat of paint. So as long as there's a nice, clean layer of paint on what we would call a pre-1978 home, we ought to be safe. The only time that may be concerned if that home were to have flaking or peeling, because then, the layers of paint are coming off and that original layer of lead-based paint could be exposed. At that point, if there's flaking and peeling, as long as those flakes and peels aren't being ingested or eaten, or, perhaps they're dust particles and being breathed or, again, eaten, you're going to be okay. Just handling flakes doesn't really cause concern. And statistically, and Colonel Lafon will get into this, children 6 years of age or under are typically who would have an issue with lead-based paint issues in the body. So again, our homes have been encapsulated several times over the years since 1978. Another big concern is window sills. Our window sills were replaced back in the 1980s. And again, that seems to be a major, statistically speaking, it causes concern where weather and wind are beating against those windows and may cause premature deterioration of paint and causing the peeling and the flaking you may see in your home. Bottom line, if you don't see any peeling or flaking, you're going to be okay. Of course, if you have any concern, we can contact housing, and they can walk you through the steps, and they can come out and take a look by our trained maintenance professionals, and they can determine if further testing needs to be conducted on a specific home. With that, I'll turn it over to Colonel Lafon, who can speak some medical facts on lead-based paint.
Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Lafon. I'm a doctor. I specialize in public health and preventive medicine, and I'm the installation's public health emergency officer. I reviewed all of the labs for lead that were performed at McAfee, White Sands, as well as William Beaumont. Because our labs go to William Beaumont, the data originally was mixed. I looked at more than 10,700 blood test results over the last decade. And what I found was that there was 0 cases of lead poisoning, and the difference between what public health considers to be poisoning versus elevation, if the number is greater than 44, is called poisoning. If it's above above 6 or above 5, if it's 6 or higher, it's considered elevation. Among these more than 10,000 cases, when we separated out the adults, because we also will monitor in occupational medicine any adult who works around lead or is inhaling lead, and we focused just on the group of children under the age of 6. There were 0 cases at White Sands for the last decade of any child having any degree of elevation. And we looked at all the labs combining Fort Bliss as well. The highest level we ever saw in any child was 22, and that was 10 years ago. We normally screen children at the ages, the first time we screen them is at age 1. We screen them again at age 2. This is the norm in the United States, and it's what's required by law in New Mexico, unless the child is an immigrant. Then we start at the age of 6 months and we extend all the way to 6 years. So looking at all these cases, I did not find anything that is worrisome as far as the blood levels. Anyone at White Sands or anyone currently in the last year. They did have a few elevated cases at Fort Bliss, and they're investigating that right now. Interestingly, the one case was only mildly elevated, was in a child that didn't even live in an older home. The reason that we worry about lead in children is that children typically will eat things that can have lead in it, such as dirt, paint chips, that type of thing. And because a young child's brain is developing, children that young are the ones that are more susceptible to the effects of lead. And I have some websites if you're interested in learning more about lead. You can go to the CDC website or the State Health Department. I'll now turn it over to Mr. Beauregard.
Thank you. My name is Brian Beauregard. I'm the project director with Balfour Beatty Communities. And thank you for allowing me to come and discuss some of the ways that we mitigate risks from lead-based paint in your home. I just want to say, on behalf of our entire organization, we really are quite serious about our obligation to ensure that the safety and health of our residents, our employees, our subcontractor employees. There's a whole bunch of things that we do that I'll get into in terms of what we do to make sure that folks are safe in their homes. We have 374 homes here at White Sands Missile Range. Out of that number, there are 170 that were built prior to 1978. And you probably know, if you're living in one of those homes, but the specific neighborhoods of Pershing and Trinity, those areas where your home would have been built prior to that period. There's 120 that are currently occupied. I think we have a small number of folks that are the children under the age of 6. And that's really, I think, the risk primarily is with the small children. We have a lot of single folks living in the homes as well as retirees and people like that. We've demolished, since the project inception in 2005, a total of 343 homes to date. And as a practical matter, that's really the only way you can ensure that these homes are completely lead-free. I mean, as a practical matter, that's about the only way, unless you're going to do a very, very major renovation, and that doesn't always occur. So what we do, and I'll get into this in more detail on the next slide, but we manage in place, and that's a very safe method for controlling the risks of lead-based paint. It's completely accepted by the EPA. It's recommended by the EPA. And like I said, I'll get into more details of what that entails. It's a multifaceted approach, and one of the first things that are involved with that is making the residents aware that they have lead-based paint in their homes. And one of the first ways that occurs is at the lease signing when they come and actually take possession. If they're living in a 1978 home, they're required to sign a lease addendum that identifies that they are likely to have lead-based paint. If we have any test results that have been taken over the years for their home or even like-kind homes, like we may not have a test result for their specific home, but we may have a test result for the house 3 doors down, and that's probably going to be an indicator. So we are required by EPA regulations to provide that information, provide that disclosure. We also provide everybody that signs a lease, as we provide a pamphlet from the EPA. It's called Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home. There's a lot of great tips in here. I highly recommend it. But everybody gets a copy, but I know it's also a busy time when folks are PCSing or in the middle of a move, so it kind of maybe gets shoved in the drawer sometimes. But these are available online. I've got extra copies if anybody would like to pick one up tonight or today. The other is, as Colonel Ward indicated, the first line of defense in terms of this mitigation of risk is really you, the resident. We encourage you to let us know if there's flaking, peeling, chipping paint in your home. We'll jump right on that to address, because that's really where the risk is. Chips fall on the floor, kids are crawling around, they get it on their hands and they put their hands in their mouth. So we want to take care of those problems as quickly as possible. Next slide. So I mentioned some of the test reports that we maintain. Like I said, maybe not for every single home, but we've conducted many tests over the years. And by law, we're required, by EPA regs, we're required to make this accessible. So I should have introduced Jennifer Dixon, our community manager. She's the one that you would go to for access to all of this information if you have lost it or you don't have it from when you moved in. Or maybe you requested to obtain it electronically and you never bothered to do that. But if you want to obtain those reports and really get a better sense of what's in your home, our community management staff can help you with that. Our maintenance techs are trained and they understand where these areas are likely to occur. There's certain procedures that they must follow if they're doing any work. Certain work actually requires that we hire a certified renovation, repair, and painting contractor. And then they have a whole bunch of steps that they have to follow to comply with the EPA regulations to make sure that they're operating and performing work in a safe manner. We also, one of the things that is a real big piece of this is our own visual inspection. So we do that in a few different ways. We have an annual preventative maintenance check that's done each year. We put a high priority on the lead-based paint homes. And generally, those are usually completed. Jennifer was telling me before we walked in here, usually by about the end of October, those are completed. There are situations where if we get a work order during the course of the year, and we see that maybe it's been 12 months or 13 months since your last lead-based paint inspection, we'll schedule those together. So we'll let you know that, hey, while we're here, we're also going to check around your house and make sure that that the lead-based paint is in good condition and not creating a hazard. The other way, obviously, would be at the change of occupancy. That's probably the best time because we can really get in there and address major problems that might be causing some issues, or also the problems become more visible when the house is empty. So those are the three ways that we, are actually getting in there and taking a look at some of the problems that may be there ourselves. That's all I have. Again, it really comes down to us working together. You're never going to eliminate the risk entirely, but managing in place is a safe and effective method. But it does require that you be vigilant and just let us know right away if there's an issue. Don't try to fix the problems yourself. There's certain methods and means required when you're dealing with lead-based paint. Call us in and we'll take care of the issues. I'll turn it back over to Colonel Ward.
Thanks, Brian. Colonel Lafon, that was very informative. Just to wrap up, I hope you found this brief, informative, fact-based, and reassuring that the Army and our partners at BBC have taken the right steps currently and throughout the years to ensure safety of the community. Out of an overabundance of caution is why we're doing this. There was no indication before the reporting or even after the reporting started that we had an issue, as you heard here at White Sands. But we just want to be clear and transparent and hope you found this educational and you know a little bit more about lead-based paintings and the effects, medically speaking, and what you should look for. I will open it up to questions at this time. For those of you who are watching on Facebook, if you have a question, please contact our headquarters and we'll get an answer to you as soon as possible to address your concerns or questions as you watch this presentation. For anyone in the audience, is there any questions at this time?
I just had one question.
Yes, sir.
Lead in the plumbing. Is there any, because I live in a building that was pre-1978, you would have lead-based soldering and different things like that. How is that being mitigated, or is that an issue here?
Well, I'll say that that's probably a question directed at the water system operator. And I'm not trying to be evasive in any way.
No, that's okay.
But,
No.
there's a whole protocol for testing that's done at the taps that I'll let our DPW director speak to.
Jose Gallegos.
Jose Gallegos, DPW Director, and I have our SME, a couple of staffers that help us answer any questions. So bottom line on the lead is pre-1986 lead-containing solder was used for plumbing. We probably have that in our housing units. Luckily, we have groundwater use here, so it's hard water. So it actually coats the inner lining of the piping, helping protect the water from the lead from coming out into solution, as well as high pH water, which helps it stay out of solution. So that's really our protection, our saving grace here. But there's no difference between these homes and any other place that will pre-submit using that type of soldering.
Okay.
That's a good question. Thank you. Is there any other questions from the audience? Okay, again, for those of you watching on Facebook, if you have a question, please contact the headquarters and we'll get an answer out to you as soon as we can. And for everyone who showed up today, thank you very much, and I hope you found this informative. Thank you.